Hello, everyone. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, whose voice is playing on repeat in your head? Is it yours or is it theirs? Imagine you're sitting in a quiet room, replaying a conversation from days, maybe even weeks ago. You dissect every word, every tone, every gesture, thinking, did I say the right thing, or what did they really mean? But here's the twist. What if the real cause of this overthinking isn't the situation itself, but someone in your life who planted the seed of doubt in your mind long ago? Every human being is shaped by the environment they live in, whether they realize it or not. The people we surround ourselves with, their words, their attitudes, and even their silent gestures carry immense power. This influence seeps into the deepest corners of our minds, often without permission. A single phrase, casually spoken by someone we trust or admire, can linger in our thoughts for days, months, or even years. Consider how a parent's consistent encouragement or criticism molds a child's self-image. Similarly, the words of a friend, mentor, or partner can plant seeds in our minds, shaping our confidence or lack thereof. These seeds grow, whether positive or negative, creating the lens through which we view ourselves and the world. When someone consistently doubts us, ridicules our dreams, or questions our abilities, their influence becomes a shadow. It whispers to us in moments of decision, amplifying hesitation and second guessing. Conversely, someone who believes in us can instill a resilience that carries us through challenges. The voices around us, whether supportive or dismissive, become the unseen architects of our internal dialogue. This power of influence operates subtly, often disguising itself as advice, concern, or even love. It's not always malicious, but it can be profound in its impact. We might adopt someone else's fears as our own, or carry their doubts into our most private thoughts. The process is gradual, yet it shapes how we interpret events, solve problems, and perceive our worth. In this way, the influence of others becomes a filter through which our minds process every experience. It determines whether we feel capable or incapable, confident or unsure, motivated or stuck. Even our deepest beliefs about ourselves often have roots in the opinions or attitudes of others. This silent power weaves itself into our thinking, turning moments of clarity into spirals of overthinking. The mind is like a fertile field, absorbing everything it encounters and turning it into beliefs, habits, and behaviors. From the moment we're born, our subconscious begins recording the words, actions, and attitudes of the people around us. These inputs, whether intentional or accidental, create patterns of thinking that dictate how we perceive ourselves and the world. Subconscious programming often begins in childhood, a time when our minds are most impressionable. The praise, criticism, or indifference we receive during these formative years sets the stage for how we approach life. A parent who constantly reminds a child to be careful may unknowingly program them to associate new experiences with fear. On the other hand, a parent who celebrates risk-taking instills a sense of adventure. These early messages become scripts, running in the background of our minds, influencing every decision we make. But subconscious programming doesn't stop with childhood. Even as adults, we're constantly absorbing the energy and messages of those around us. A boss's casual remark about a missed opportunity can embed itself in our subconscious, leading us to doubt our abilities. A partner's offhand comment about how we handle stress might subtly convince us we're less resilient than we truly are. These moments, though fleeting, carry lasting weight. What makes subconscious programming so powerful is that it often operates without our awareness. We don't realize that the fear of failure we feel before starting something new isn't entirely our own. It's rooted in someone else's warnings or doubts. The hesitation to speak up in a meeting might trace back to a moment when someone silenced us. These influences take residence in our minds, shaping how we think, react, and process the world around us. Over time, these mental scripts form our habits of overthinking, self-doubt, or second-guessing. They create automatic responses to situations, bypassing conscious thought. When faced with a challenge, we might find ourselves replaying the voice of a critic instead of relying on our inner strength. This deeply embedded programming can feel like a part of who we are, but it's often the result of external voices that have woven themselves into the fabric of our thoughts. The comparison trap is one of the most subtle yet pervasive influences on the human mind. It begins innocently. Perhaps you notice a friend achieving something you've always wanted, or you see someone on social media living a life that seems effortlessly perfect. At first, it might spark admiration or inspiration, but over time, it can morph into a cycle of overthinking, self-doubt, and dissatisfaction. Comparison is a natural instinct, rooted in our evolutionary need to assess where we stand within a group. However, in today's hyper-connected world, the scope of comparison has expanded far beyond what our minds were designed to handle. Instead of comparing ourselves to a small circle of peers, we now measure ourselves against countless people, often strangers, who showcase only the highlights of their lives. This creates an impossible standard, one that fuels feelings of inadequacy and insecurity. The trap deepens when we start to internalize the idea that someone else's success diminishes our own worth. We begin to ask ourselves questions like, why am I not where they are? Or what am I doing wrong? These thoughts quickly spiral into overthinking as we analyze every choice we've made, searching for the reasons we're falling short. This endless loop of comparison and self-criticism not only drains our energy, but also distorts our perception of reality. What makes the comparison trap so insidious is that it's often fueled by external voices, people who project their own definitions of success onto us. A parent might compare us to a more accomplished sibling, or a friend might unintentionally highlight their achievements in a way that triggers self-doubt. These moments, though seemingly minor, leave lasting impressions that shape how we evaluate ourselves. Even when we achieve something significant, the comparison trap can rob us of joy. Instead of celebrating our progress, we might downplay it because it doesn't measure up to someone else's milestones. This constant measuring creates a sense of dissatisfaction, as if nothing we do is ever enough. The more we compare, the more we focus on what we lack rather than recognizing our unique strengths and accomplishments. The comparison trap also thrives on a false narrative that life is a zero-sum game, where someone else's win automatically means our loss. This belief keeps us stuck in a cycle of trying to catch up, overanalyzing every decision, and doubting our own path. Negative imprints are the subtle yet lasting marks left on our minds by experiences of criticism, judgment, or failure. These imprints often stem from moments when we felt dismissed, belittled, or unworthy in the eyes of someone whose opinion mattered to us. Over time, they form the foundation for self-doubt, overthinking, and hesitation, shaping how we see ourselves and our potential. These imprints can be traced back to early experiences, perhaps a teacher who labeled us as not smart enough, or a peer who mocked our efforts. Even fleeting moments, such as being overlooked in a group discussion or receiving a sarcastic comment about our appearance, can embed themselves deeply in our psyche. The words may fade, but their emotional weight remains, resurfacing in moments of uncertainty. Negative imprints don't just stay confined to specific incidents. They evolve into patterns of thought. A single moment of rejection can lead to a recurring fear of failure, causing us to overanalyze every decision in an attempt to avoid further pain. A harsh critique can linger in our minds, making us second-guess our abilities long after the moment has passed. These imprints create mental roadblocks, convincing us that our past defines our future. What makes negative imprints so powerful is their ability to distort reality. They magnify our weaknesses and minimize our strengths, creating a skewed self-perception. For example, a single piece of negative feedback might overshadow a history of accomplishments, leading us to believe we're not capable or deserving of success. This distorted perception often triggers overthinking, as we replay past mistakes or rehearse future scenarios in an attempt to shield ourselves from further harm. The people in our lives can unknowingly reinforce these imprints. A well-meaning parent might focus on our shortcomings in an effort to push us toward improvement, not realizing that their words are leaving a lasting scar. A friend's casual joke at our expense might seem harmless, but it can resurface in moments of vulnerability. Even societal pressures, messages about what we should look like, achieve, or aspire to, can create imprints that shape how we measure our worth. Negative imprints thrive in silence, growing stronger when we internalize them without question. They become the background noise of our thoughts, influencing how we approach relationships, opportunities, and challenges. They whisper doubts when we need confidence and amplify fears when we need courage, keeping us trapped in cycles of overthinking and self-criticism. Seeking approval is a deeply ingrained human tendency, rooted in our natural desire to feel valued, accepted, and connected. From a young age, we learn that certain behaviors, achievements, or even appearances earn us praise, while others invite criticism or indifference. Over time, this need for validation can evolve into a habit of overthinking, as we constantly evaluate how our choices, actions, and words will be perceived by others. The need for approval often stems from early experiences where acceptance was conditional. A child who received affection only after achieving good grades or behaving perfectly may grow up believing their worth is tied to external accomplishments. Similarly, someone who faced criticism or neglect may develop a heightened sensitivity to others' opinions, striving endlessly to gain validation as a way of compensating for past rejection. These early lessons become internalized, influencing how we navigate relationships, decisions, and even our self-identity. And this ends up, as we carry this mindset into adulthood, the approval of others begins to overshadow our own instincts and desires. We may hesitate to voice our opinions, fearing disapproval or judgment. We might overanalyze our interactions, replaying conversations in our minds to ensure we didn't say the wrong thing. This constant need to measure up to others' expectations creates a mental burden, leading to cycles of overthinking and self-doubt. Seeking approval also creates a vulnerability to external influences. We become more susceptible to the opinions of those around us, even when they don't align with our values or aspirations. A single comment from a colleague, friend, or family member can derail our confidence, making us question our decisions or abilities. The fear of disappointing others often outweighs our own priorities, leaving us stuck in a pattern of trying to please everyone while neglecting our own needs. In today's world, the pressure to seek approval is amplified by social media and societal expectations. The constant stream of curated images and achievements sets an unrealistic standard, fueling the belief that we must constantly prove our worth. This leads to a relentless pursuit of validation, where likes, comments, and external recognition become substitutes for genuine self-worth. Seeking approval stems from a misunderstanding of where true value lies. When we place our sense of worth in the hands of others, we give away our power and allow their perceptions to dictate how we feel about ourselves. This external focus not only fuels overthinking, but also creates a sense of instability, as our confidence rises and falls based on the approval or criticism of those around us. Unhealthy relationship. the boundaries between self and other often become blurred. We may feel constantly pressured to meet the needs or expectations of the other person, even at the cost of our own well-being. This can lead to a sense of being unappreciated, invisible, or even trapped. The constant emotional drain of trying to satisfy someone who is never truly satisfied can wear down our confidence and create an environment ripe for overthinking. We question our decisions, our worth, and our ability to navigate the complexities of the relationship. One of the most insidious aspects of unhealthy relationships is the emotional manipulation that often takes place. Gaslighting, where one's reality is distorted and doubted, is a prime example of how toxic relationships can make us question our perceptions and memories. When we are told repeatedly that we are too sensitive or overreacting, we begin to doubt our own emotional responses. This causes a mental disconnect where we become trapped in cycles of self-questioning and self-doubt, trying to make sense of this situation but unable to find clarity. Criticism and belittlement are also common features in unhealthy relationships. Whether it's through constant judgment, sarcastic remarks, or passive-aggressive comments, the underlying message is often that we are not good enough. This type of negativity seeps into our minds, reinforcing the idea that we must constantly prove our worth. Over time, we begin to internalize these criticisms, and they take root in our subconscious, influencing how we see ourselves and how we navigate the world. Another damaging aspect of unhealthy relationships is the lack of emotional support or empathy. In such relationships, we might feel emotionally abandoned, with our needs for connection and understanding dismissed or ignored. The absence of support leaves us feeling isolated and vulnerable, amplifying feelings of insecurity and uncertainty. When we are unable to turn to those closest to us for comfort, we often start to second-guess our own emotional responses and become more sensitive to any sign of rejection or neglect. Being in an unhealthy relationship can make us feel as though we are constantly walking on eggshells, second-guessing every interaction and trying to avoid conflict or criticism. This heightened state of vigilance triggers overthinking as we replay conversations and behaviors in our minds, seeking patterns or clues about what went wrong. We become trapped in a cycle of mental analysis, unable to find peace because we are constantly waiting for the next emotional storm to erupt. Breaking the chain of negative influences is one of the most empowering steps we can take in reclaiming control over our thoughts, emotions, and actions. It begins with the realization that we are not prisoners of the people or circumstances that shaped our past. The first step in this process is recognizing the sources of negativity that have shaped our mindset, whether it be the voices of others, past experiences, or unhealthy relationships. By identifying these influences, we begin to see that they are not inherently a part of who we are, but external forces that have conditioned our way of thinking. The moment we acknowledge that these influences are not our own, we empower ourselves to shift the narrative. It's as though a light bulb goes off in our minds, revealing that we don't have to continue living according to the expectations or judgments of others. This newfound awareness is the key to breaking free. We no longer have to remain tethered to outdated beliefs or toxic patterns that have been ingrained in us over time. The chain that has bound us can be broken, but only when we decide to challenge it. This shift requires courage, as it often means stepping out of the comfort zone of familiar patterns, even if those patterns have caused pain. It's easier to stay within the boundaries of what we know, even if what we know doesn't serve us. But growth lies beyond those boundaries. It requires us to question the voices that have been planted in our minds, whether they come from parents, friends, partners, or society, and to ask ourselves, is this belief truly mine, or has it been programmed into me by someone else? rather than simply letting it and living. Once we identify the negative influences in our lives, we can start to dismantle them, one thought at a time. This may mean rewriting the inner scripts that have defined our self-worth. For example, when we hear the voice of self-doubt or criticism, we can counter it with an empowering thought that affirms our strength and capabilities. Over time, these positive thoughts begin to overwrite the old limiting beliefs, like replacing old software with a more effective program. Breaking the chain requires us to consciously choose a different way of thinking, a way that aligns with who we truly are and who we want to become. The process of breaking the chain also involves creating new, healthier habits and surrounding ourselves with people who genuinely support and uplift us. We need to invest in relationships that encourage growth and positivity rather than those that foster negativity. By surrounding ourselves with individuals who believe in us and our potential, we begin to shift the influence in our lives from those who drag us down to those who lift us up. These positive relationships can act as anchors, helping us stay grounded in our newfound belief in ourselves. Breaking the chain is a journey, not a destination. It takes time and effort to unlearn the patterns that have kept us stuck in overthinking, self-doubt, and fear. But each step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. With each new decision to challenge the negative influences in our lives, we move closer to the freedom of living authentically and confidently. The chain may have been built over time, but it can also be broken, one conscious choice at a time. Reclaiming your thoughts is a fundamental step in taking back control over your life. For too long, many of us have allowed external influences, whether they come from people, societal expectations, or past experiences, to dictate how we think and feel. The mind becomes a battleground between the voice of our true selves and the voices of others, creating confusion, doubt, and overthinking. Reclaiming your thoughts is about clearing the noise and returning to a place where you can think independently and with clarity. The first step in reclaiming your thoughts is recognizing that you have the power to choose what you focus on. It starts with awareness, the realization that not every thought you have is true, nor is every thought worthy of your attention. Often, we are caught in the habit of mindlessly accepting whatever thoughts arise, especially those that are negative or limiting. These thoughts often feel automatic, as if they're a part of us, but in reality, they are simply conditioned patterns from past experiences, influences, or fears. To reclaim your thoughts, you must start questioning them. When a thought arises, ask yourself, is this helpful? Is this my truth? Or is it something I've been programmed to believe? Often these automatic thoughts are based on old beliefs about ourselves, beliefs that were formed by others' opinions, societal standards, or our own past mistakes. By questioning these thoughts, we begin the process of separating who we truly are from who we've been told we should be. This allows us to take back the reins of our minds and direct them toward healthier, more empowering thoughts. This means being mindful of the information and people you expose yourself to, just as we wouldn't allow toxic substances into our bodies. We should be equally selective about the ideas and influences we allow into our minds. Consuming negative or fear-based content, whether through media, social networks, or toxic relationships, can reinforce feelings of inadequacy and worry. To reclaim your thoughts, you must actively seek out sources of inspiration, motivation, and positivity, whether through books, podcasts, or conversations with supportive people. The more you feed your mind with uplifting ideas, the more naturally those thoughts will replace the old ones. Reclaiming your thoughts also requires cultivating the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness allows you to observe your thoughts without getting swept up in them. By practicing mindfulness, you can distance yourself from the constant stream of thoughts that often lead to overthinking. This gives you the power to choose which thoughts you engage with and which ones you let go. Through regular mindfulness practices such as meditation, deep breathing, or simply pausing throughout the day to check in with your thoughts, you can create space between your experiences and your reactions. This space allows you to respond more thoughtfully rather than react impulsively based on the automatic thoughts running through your mind. Reclaiming your thoughts is about taking ownership of your mental landscape. It's about recognizing that you have the power to steer your mind in the direction you want it to go, regardless of past influences or current circumstances. By practicing awareness, questioning negative beliefs, silencing the inner critic, and mindfully choosing what you allow into your mind, you can reclaim your thoughts and shape your reality. Reclaiming your thoughts is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice of consciously aligning your thoughts with your true self and your highest potential. Cultivating healthy connections is one of the most powerful ways to reclaim your peace of mind, strengthen your emotional resilience, and foster personal growth. At its core, a healthy connection is one where both individuals respect each other's boundaries, communicate openly, and support each other's well-being. These types of relationships, whether they are with friends, family, or romantic partners, create a foundation of trust, understanding, and mutual respect that allows each person to thrive. In contrast, unhealthy connections can drain your energy, feed self-doubt, and keep you trapped in cycles of overthinking. The first step in cultivating healthy connections is to ensure that you are grounded in your own sense of self-worth. Healthy relationships are built on a foundation of mutual respect, and it is impossible to fully respect and connect with others if you don't first respect and value yourself. This means setting clear boundaries, being honest about your needs, and not compromising your own well-being for the sake of pleasing others. When you are confident in your own value, you will naturally attract relationships that mirror that respect and understanding. Effective communication is another cornerstone of cultivating healthy connections. In any relationship, being able to express your thoughts, feelings, and needs openly and honestly is essential. However, it is equally important to listen actively and empathetically when others communicate with you. Healthy connections thrive on understanding, and this requires being present in the moment, without judgment or defensiveness. By practicing active listening, you create an environment where both parties feel heard, validated, and respected. This mutual understanding builds trust and strengthens the emotional bond between individuals. Respecting each other's individuality is also crucial in fostering healthy relationships. Too often, we fall into the trap of codependency or lose sight of our own needs in the process of trying to maintain a relationship. Healthy connections allow both individuals to grow independently while still maintaining a deep bond. This means allowing each person the space to pursue their own goals, interests, and personal development. In relationships where both individuals support and encourage each other's growth, the connection becomes a source of strength and inspiration rather than a source of limitation or dependency. Another important aspect of cultivating healthy connections is emotional support. Healthy relationships are built on a foundation of empathy and compassion, where both individuals offer encouragement, understanding, and comfort during times of difficulty. Emotional support doesn't always mean solving the problem for the other person. It's about being present, offering a listening ear, and validating their feelings. When both people in a relationship feel supported emotionally, it creates a safe space for vulnerability, which in turn deepens the connection. Without emotional support, relationships can feel hollow and disconnected, leaving both parties feeling isolated. Setting and maintaining boundaries is essential to preserving the integrity of any healthy relationship. Boundaries are not walls. They are the guidelines that define how we allow others to treat us, and they also define how we treat others. When boundaries are respected, relationships can thrive with a sense of mutual understanding. When boundaries are ignored or violated, resentment builds and the relationship becomes unhealthy. A relationship becomes unhealthy. When boundaries are allowed to set a rise above the ground, the relationship becomes unhealthy. Cultivating healthy connections requires both individuals to be aware of each other's boundaries and to respect them. This mutual respect for personal space, time, and emotions creates a sense of balance and fairness in the relationship. As a source of trust, cultivating healthy connections creates a sense of balance and fairness in the relationship. Trust is the bedrock of any healthy connection. It is built over time through consistent actions, honesty, and integrity. Trust means being able to rely on each other without fear of betrayal, judgment, or manipulation. When trust is present, both individuals feel safe enough to be vulnerable and authentic, knowing that they won't be taken advantage of or judged for their thoughts and feelings. And cultivating trust requires both patience and consistency. It is not built overnight, but through a series of actions that demonstrate reliability, transparency, and honesty. Cultivating healthy connections also involves knowing when to let go of relationships that are no longer serving you. Not all relationships are meant to last forever, and sometimes it is necessary to release connections that are toxic, draining, or emotionally harmful. This doesn't mean abandoning others in their time of need, but rather recognizing when the dynamics of the relationship are no longer healthy or supportive. Letting go can be one of the most difficult decisions to make, but it is an act of self-preservation and growth. When you make space for healthier, more positive relationships, you open the door to deeper and more fulfilling connections in the future. Cultivating healthy connections requires intentional effort, self-awarenesses, and a commitment to mutual respect, communication, and trust. These relationships are not based on perfection, but on the understanding that both individuals are allowed to be authentic and true to themselves. By focusing on creating and nurturing healthy connections, you create an environment where both you and those around you can grow, thrive, and experience true emotional fulfillment. Becoming the gatekeeper of your mind is a powerful and transformative practice that allows you to take full control over your thoughts, emotions, and actions. The mind, much like a fortress, is constantly under siege by external influences, both positive and negative. Whether it's the media, the opinions of others, or the habits we've formed over time, there are constant forces that attempt to infiltrate our mental space. As the gatekeeper of your mind, you must learn to protect the inner sanctum of your thoughts from harmful influences and curate the ideas, beliefs, and emotions that are allowed entry. The first step in becoming the gatekeeper of your mind is to recognize that you have control over what enters. We are not passive recipients of every thought, idea, or emotion that passes through our minds. Much like a physical gatekeeper would assess who can enter a castle, we have the ability to consciously decide which thoughts and beliefs we will entertain. This begins with awareness, paying close attention to the thoughts that arise and recognizing them for what they are. Are they constructive? Are they helping you move closer to your goals? Or are they reinforcing negative patterns of thinking? The more aware you become of your mental landscape, the easier it is to spot thoughts that don't align with your true desires or values. One of the most effective ways to become the gatekeeper of your mind is through mindfulness. Mindfulness helps create a space between stimulus and response, allowing you to assess each thought before you react to it. Without mindfulness, we often react impulsively to the flood of thoughts that bombard us, allowing negative or unproductive ideas to dictate our actions. By practicing mindfulness, you can stop these thoughts in their tracks, giving yourself time to decide whether they are worthy of your attention. This practice enables you to filter out harmful thoughts that could lead to overthinking, self-doubt, or unnecessary stress.